Hello and welcome to Bunnex Investment Group. Today we are going to talk about the top 3 Forex trading entries. If you follow everything that will be said in this video, you will definitely make positive changes to your trading. But before we jump into the whole video, be sure to check out our free signals Telegram channel. The link is right in the description below. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell icon. First things first, patience is the first port of call. You will need to stay composed in order to take only the pristine setups that I will explain. After taking the setups, patience will also be needed to watch them mature. So here are the setups for the top entries. To get the entries that we will talk about, we need to explain the setups that should be first identified before entering the trade. The points of entries or our zones of interest are going to be the peak, the safety, and the US session reversal point. So I'll explain this one first. A peak is a point where we have 3 levels of drop or 3 levels of rise. After these 3 levels of drop or 3 days of drop, this is our point of interest when we are interested in the peak entry. After that, we will have a restart of the cycle, and from level 1, after level 1, we will have another zone that we term the safety zone. After the safety zone, within a day or intraday, we have 3 small segments like this, and during the US session, we'll have another zone of interest, which is the US session reversal. I'll explain this further on the charts. So this is a snippet of CHF against Japanese yen. It's Swiss franc against Japanese yen, CHF against JPY snippet. This is to illustrate to you the zones that I am talking about. So as you can see, this was the peak formation high. After the peak formation high, we had EMA 13 and EMA 50 cross. This signified peak clock of this peak. So whenever a peak is locked like this, there is now a lesser probability of price coming back to this region. So after peak locked, we had a level 1 floor. After this level 1 floor, we had a pullback and we had a level 2 floor. After this level 2 floor, we saw price coming to retest 50 EMA. Mind you, this is an H1 chart. This one is our safety point, or it was also our zone of interest of safety. Then after that, we had the third level drop. So after 3 levels of drop, the first one, the second one, and the third one, we had our peak formation low. So on this peak formation low, that is where we were issued this type of setup that is called a multi-session 3-pin W. After this multi-session setup, we had the first level after 1350 peak low had occurred. Then after that, we had our another zone of interest, which is the safety zone of interest, and it occurred at this point. Don't worry, I'm going to clarify a bit more. So peak formation or peak trade or peak entry, this entry is taken after 3 levels of rise, 3 levels of rise, or 3 levels of drop. Confirmation of this entry is candlestick closure below or above the 13 EMA. So this is how the setup looks like. we will have let's take for instance, this was the last level. So we had a second level, third level, and peak formation high at this point. So we had 1, 2, and 3, and we had a setup of this manner. So candlestick closure above, actually in this scenario we don't have the EMA, but candlestick closure above the 13 was definitely going to give us our entry point, or was going to be our entry trigger. So basically this is all about the peak entry. And then the next trade is the safety, or the ID 50 trade. This comes after the peak is logged. This is after 1350 have crossed if viewed on H1, or 5200 have crossed if viewed on M15. Then price retest the 50 EMA that is on H1 chart, or 200 EMA that is on M15 chart, depending on the time frame of observation. Confirmation is candle closure above the 13 EMA. What do we mean? After the peak has logged, we'll see level 1 flow. Then after level 1 flow, we'll see price coming back to 50. That is if we are viewing our charts on H1. If we are viewing on M15, we'll see it coming to 200. Basically that is our next pristine entry that will be issued for possible cycle completion. So this is how it will look like. Here we had let's take for instance, this was level 1, and here we had our peak. So level 1, level 2, then level 3, and our another peak for a possible. So here we had price. This is M15 time frame. So if it is M15 time frame, we will be looking for a retest of the 200 EMA, which is this mile colored EMA. So price came back to this point, retested, and candle closure below was our entry trigger. So basically that is what you will be looking for on this type of entry. Then last but not least is the US session reversal. This setup comes in the US session, but it is only validated after you have seen 3 by M15 segments. The first thing is to see 3 by M15 segments, and this is the most important aspect for you to validate this entry. In the middle of the US session, you will have to see a candlestick reversal pattern. What do I mean? After, let's take for instance, we had a peak, level 1, right, and peak is logged. We had our next trade. First trade was here. Then we had our next trade, which was the ID 50 or safety trade. Then on level 2, we see small segments of the M15 time frame. Then we enter our trade as a counter to these ones and take a few pips. That is what I mean by US session reversal entry. And we exit at 20 or 15 pips. Then our cycle continues. So basically the first thing is to see 3 by M15 segments and then enter as a counter to the cycle. Basically that. So here is a snippet from GBP against US. We had this was the lowest point. So this was the first floor. As you can see, we had the consolidation, then second floor, another consolidation, and then we had third floor. So here was our candlestick reversal pattern. Another one was here. It depends on which one you were going to choose. but favor those ones that comes in the middle of the US session. The US session was marked with this red box, so favor the ones that comes within the middle of the US session, and you went short up to this point, which was approximately 25 pips, and your stop loss was approximately 10 pips. Basically that. So these are the three entries actually that I call the top entries in the forex industry: the peak trade, the safety, and the US reversal. The US reversal is basically a scalping strategy, actually a scalping entry, because you do not take a lot of pips. For peak trades, you can take over for 150 or 200 depending on the type of pair that you have entered. If you have taken the safety trade, you can take 50 to 80 pips on your entry. Basically that. So do not hesitate to ask questions in the comments below if you have somewhere that you need to be clarified. So as I say in all my videos, that without discipline, you will never be consistent, and without consistency, you will never achieve the goal. So you have, as a trader, you have to do a lot of meditation and stick to the only trades that we have discussed. And lastly, do not give yourself pressure. Take it easy. Money is on your side. In conclusion, follow your plan without deviation, distracting thoughts, or hesitation to act. On that note, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and check out our free signals Telegram channel. The link is this one in red.